Well, good morning. Hey, we're back. It's B. Robert Phoenix broadcasting to you live from the lovely Hill Country. And looks like I have an internet connection, whereas yesterday that was a little spotty. So let me say hi to some folks here. Let's see, we got what's going on, Michael? Justice, you cracked me up. There's VV. What's happening, VV? Fifth Wall? My man, Mark Matheny. What's shaking? Natasha Lloyd, Leon Luis. I will check my emails. Promise today. It's happening. Let's see who else do we have here. There's Jonas, Victoria V, Double V. Let's see, JMP Love, Teresa Blackburn, Mary Greether, Jennifer Fitzgerald. We got Jennifer's back to back. And let's see what else we have here. Z, Kathy Werner Leap in the house. Good morning to you. Welcome. Tina Sherman. Hi, Tina. Kate Elizabeth. Great to see you. There's Ian Barber. Hello, Ian. There's Kestrel. Danica Rose. What's going on? Outside equals no Jasper. I know. Jasper's cooling his paws. He's cooling his paws on the couch. Carolina in the Pines. There she is. Ani Brito. Good morning, Ani. There's Frank Bry. Charles Mazek. He's feeling the momentum swing. 18 inches of snow this week and another 18 on the way. Wow. Better stay warm up there. Shay Michelle. What's happening? Thanks, Shay. I wish I felt bad about yesterday's show. It was like, okay, I've got it all planned out. Here we go, ready to go. And then all of a sudden I've got to use the phone. I'm like, shit. And then I get on the phone. Then about 10 minutes later, I could get on the live stream. What I probably should have done is just killed the phone once I got on the live stream. But I wasn't sure what would happen at that point. I was in uncharted territory. I was like moving between worlds. I was moving between digital domains, and there was some max headroom shit going on. Ralph Winter, what's going on, Ralph? I'm going to talk about England today. Boy, some darkness setting on the empire there. Laurel Jubin, Lori, what's going on? Let's see, who else do we have? Mr. Cruz, what's going on, Johnny? Well, I really tried to power through that thing. That was challenging. It was very challenging because when I'm trying to deal with the technology, the ability to kind of navigate through the different links that I set up and make the connections became like fairly distracting at a certain point. So, yeah, wish I'd had a show on Saturday. I need at least one day. That I can kind of relax and chill out a little bit. What's going on, Maury? Good to see you. Lived Max Headroom before it's love Max. Yeah, Max Headroom was crazy good. It had that kind of underground steampunk thing going on. The rudimentary kinds of insertion into the digital world, with all the kind of, fractal 64-bit graphics and all that stuff. It was interesting, very interesting. And there was this one kind of underground society that was more free than sort of the other parts of so-called society. It's always that way, isn't it? Have you guys seen? Have you guys read or heard the reading of It's 2030? I own absolutely nothing, and I've never been happier. Have you guys read that? I should read it. What I really want to do is I want to do a spoof and a takeoff on it. Let's see. Man, the stress just keeps rising. Yep, you got to stay cool. YouTube was down. Let's see. BitChute was down. Phone service was weird. This morning, I was texting a friend, and the text came out in different sequences. It was really strange, really strange. And then I also have a Signal app, and I didn't get any Signal app messages for like 2 weeks. It was like, oh, it's like, well, why is this thing on stuck on 4? Then all of a sudden, I got all these Signal app messages. Like, oh, things are wonky. I'm going to get into that a little bit today. Try to give you some information that I have heard with an asterisk. Got to put an asterisk there. Always have the asterisk. Let's see. My brother-in-law downloaded all the Max Head. That's really cool. You know, Max Headroom was the thing over in England. That's where it was produced. And I think it was in England for a longer period of time than it was here in the States. ABC ran it here in the States, and I think I had it for maybe 1 or 2 seasons, but it was much bigger in England, if I'm not mistaken. My gut was telling me something was being messed with out there. It is definitely being messed with. So why don't we jump into this thing? And major shakeup at number 10 scandal happening now. Hi, Misty Miner. Good to see you. Lots of things are down periodically. Yes, they are. All right, why don't we get going? The revolution may not be streamed. That's great, Johnny. I like that. Hey, there's Tea Time with Ticia. What's going on? All right, here we go. Let's really kind of anchor the light, as they say. Dear blessed and holy Mother, Father God of the great central sun within universe light, which is the light of Yeshua Sananda Emmanuel, we ask that only the highest and best truth, wisdom, and information come through at this time. And in so doing, that we are blessed and graced with the qualities of fortitude, strength, commitment, flexibility, compassion, happiness, joy, forgiveness, completion, commitment, courage, intelligence, wisdom, humor, perspective, attachment, passion, intensity, empathy, and above all, love. We ask that only these qualities come through at this time, nothing else, and that any karmic residue be cleansed, purified, clarified, and removed at this time. All right, so keep going. I think that thing seems to help, you know? I think it seems to help. Because people have said when I don't do that the streams, that some of the people that kind of show up and hang out in Chatlandia are a little more, how shall we say, dissonant. Okay, so where do we start? Let's talk about the tech stuff. This is what I've heard. I have heard that I don't believe there's going to be any EMP pulse. I don't believe that the entire internet and the entire power grid and all our communications are going to go offline. I don't think that that's going to happen. Because if that happened, it would be a major blow to this system. When I say the system, I'm not talking about just this system. I'm talking about the global system, because everything is linked up globally now. That means that money transfers, anything related to shipping, distribution, communications. And if it all went down for here in this country for a fairly significant period of time, and significant period of time I would say would be at the minimum about 48 hours. Like 48 hours without any power, without any communication, that would be, I think, a big game changer. A big game changer. Not just here, but in other places as well. Because the United States, of course, is a major economic and communications hub for the rest of the world. So, you zoom that out, because some people are talking about 10 days. Like if that happens 10 days in the United States, it is done. Like the world is over as we know it. And they may as well ramp up and roll out all the new technologies after that to make up for the lost time. So I think that would be. I don't think that the people who want to do their grand reset have a lot of investment in that. Okay, I don't. I guess maybe if you wanted to shut that down, you would just pull the plug and everything. But I don't think that that's going to happen because there are people in this world who are just incredibly greedy, and they want to still continue to make money. And maybe they would have their backup technologies. Who knows? It's quite possible. But I don't think that that's going to happen. What I do think is going to happen is that there will be pockets of technology and communications going out periodically. I think that's what's going to happen. And the question then becomes who would be behind it? Why would it happen? Well, my feeling is that the Trump administration has been very quiet. Trump, well, perhaps not people surrounding Trump in his administration. I mean, Bill Barr has spoken up, and a few other people, but Trump has been incredibly quiet, and which is not always part of his game plan. So something's going on. Something's going on. There are a number of guys from the DOD who have left. I talked about this yesterday. You had the guy in the DOJ, Pilger, and Pilger left, right? So he was the guy that was in charge of the election fraud, and at least trying to keep a lid on it. So we're seeing this Pilger character. I think is more sort of that's a career move. He wants to work again. I think somewhere, and if you look at his record, he is a lifetime public servant, as it were. Like he went to school. I think he graduated from Notre Dame with a law degree, and he just started kind of clerking right away inside of the government, and has been inside the government ever since. So that's been his path. But these other guys, the military guys, they can get gigs in the defense industry. That's easy. They could go work for Raytheon or McDonnell Douglas or whatever. That's how it works anyway in Washington. People will leave government, go to the private sector. They'll be in the private sector for a while. Maybe they'll come back into government. They shake hands with each other as they, move through the White House as one leaves and the other one enters. And what was that cartoon? I think it was like one of the Looney Tunes cartoons where was it the Wile E. Coyote where they were punching a clock? There was and one would leave and the other would take over. It's kind of like that in some ways. So something is happening. The other thing, and I talked about this yesterday, is the amount of arms. And I talked about this last night too. Emily and I did a Matrix Mash, and you can go over to her channel and check that out. That's up. But there's been a huge amount of arms that have been sold to our new allies in the Middle East, primarily Saudi Arabia and the UAE. So there was a really, people were making a big deal out of these big, peace pacts and peace accords that were being made with Israel. And one of the things I talked about last night with Emily is that had nothing to do with, making a peace deal. What that was is that was making an alliance with Israel, so that a military alliance, so that if they needed to, they could go all in on a war in a place like either Lebanon or Iran. Now, the Iran thing is, I've always been a little suspect about going in and taking down Iran. And the reason why is because Iran has a lot of former Israelis and quote unquote Jewish people living inside of Iran. It's a very robust community there. So I'm not sure that they would want to go in and completely obliterate Iran, because I think that would be, well, I don't think it would be something that they'd want to do to their own tribe members or extended family. That said, would they go in and damage critical infrastructure with Iran? Quite possibly, yes. That's possible. Then we have to ask, where is Iran in the whole kind of global scheme and game? Like, what's their role? Are they really these adversaries? Are they, again, kind of this limited hangout? Because the United States was involved in the overthrow of the Shah. I mean, the United States helped put the Ayatollah Khomeini into office there. That was part of what we did. Not office, but, he began to run the show in Iran. And, they were sending cassette tapes from the Ayatollah from Paris back into Iran. So people were listening to this very powerful sort of strict, hardline Muslim rhetoric. So they were priming the people to be ready for this guy, Khomeini, and the United States made it happen. They were tired of the Shah. The Shah wanted to nationalize their oil, and Shell and Standard Oil and the Seven Sisters said, no, you're not going to do that. And this is what happens. These countries think that they actually run their countries, or the people that are in charge of the country think they run the countries, and they get disabused of that notion pretty quickly. We've seen that again and again and again. So this is what happened, and we were there. I mean, we moved that thing along. Hello, Iran-Contra. And that was the event that completely torpedoed Jimmy Carter's presidency. Anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on that, but I do think that there's something big happening in that part of the world with this massive arms transfer that all happened within the last 10 days. And that, again, is after the fact, when these countries have decided that they're going to peacefully coexist. And really what they've done is they really have formed, in my opinion, kind of a military federation or military alliance in that area. So I think what will probably happen is that they will black out certain areas for a certain period of time. I don't think the whole thing will get blacked out. And I think they'll also hamper or completely shut down phone service for certain areas, especially cell phones. And what would be the reason for that? Well, I think the reason would be that there would be a removal of people from positions that have been deemed to be seditious, and that these people were and are national security threats. So that could be anybody from one of the big tech companies, Google, Facebook, Twitter. I mean, if I were those people, I'd be very, very concerned at this point. Like, if I was somebody in the Google hierarchy, or if I was Jack Dorsey, or if I was somebody in the Facebook hierarchy, I'd be a little nervous. I'd make sure if I had the money, I'd probably hire a security team, especially now. But I'm telling you, man, let's say you have 2 or 3 people that are watching over you, they're going to be no match for a dozen really well-trained people who will come in when all communications are cut, and they will just strike like lightning, right? You would need basically a kind of a small army to hold off something like that, so that you can figure out how to get out of Dodge, right? And if I was one of these people, I probably wouldn't even be in the continental U.S. right now. I'd be working from home. I'd be having Zoom calls from, I don't know, Bora Bora or someplace like that. So this is what I've heard, but it wouldn't just be high tech. It'd be people also in the mainstream media that would be removed. It would be people within the political sphere that would also be removed. It'd be across the board. And how they would do this is that they would have evidence linking them to China. That's how it would go down. And then there would also be international or political figures from other countries, i.e., probably China, that would be called out, and that this would happen, and it would be very quick, and probably over the course of about 3 to 4 days, maybe 5 days at the most. So this is how I think it would go down. I don't think it would be a coordinated effort by the so-called left, but whoever gets there first, and whoever strikes with surgical precision, probably winds up controlling a very hardcore, hardline narrative. That's what I think. Now it's about, who has the resources and the cojones. I was reading a piece on online today about the CEO of Walmart, and he has essentially said, like, they're all in on the reset. That's what he said. We're all in on this reset, and we're going to do everything in our power to, move that along. The guy's name is Doug McMillian, and he's been with Walmart pretty much all of his adult working life. I started off just working at a Walmart in Bentonville, Alabama, or Arkansas, rather. But then wound up going to school and getting a couple of degrees and coming back to Walmart, and he worked at a store as an assistant manager, became a buyer, and moved his way up to the top. He's now top dog at Walmart, and it says he's a big Christian, and he's like Dan Carthy, the guy who runs Chick-fil-A. And these people are false Christians. I'm here to testify to that. They're false Christians because they are investing in the beast system. And Dan Carthy likes to run around and keep his Chick-fil-A's closed on Sunday, but that's all dog and pony show. That's all cluck. So I would not be surprised if people in the business realm would also be removed, because this thing is systemic. Now, the other side is thinking, well, shit, we should probably be doing the same thing. We should probably be thinking about removing, key people in the Trump administration or Trump himself. So we're inching towards this conflict, and I don't think we're going to have a race war. I don't think that that's going to happen. I think that was pretty evident based on the turnout of the election and how the Latino base for Trump just really, it's like a Jiffy Pop popcorn, just puffed up, right? That's not going to happen. And even the shift in voters inside the Trump base for black males, that increased. So, they keep trying to stoke this race war. And I don't think it's going to happen. That said, could we have a civil war? The answer to that, yes. We've already been in a civil war, and it is getting less civil by the day. So I think that that's possible. But, we often think of civil wars as being fought in the streets, or, however you define a civil war. But these wars are also fought at corporate levels. They're fought at higher levels of power, right? And really fourth and fifth generation kinds of warfare. So just remember that this new guy that Trump hired has a big background in cyber intelligence, cybersecurity and cyber intelligence. This guy's a very different person than Esmer. So I think this is what's kind of in the air. And people last night, I was getting all kinds of texts from our little message group about what was going on and what wasn't going on. So, how do you wrap your head around this? Well, what you really need to do is you need to make sure that you have some resources on hand. That, I think, is very important. You need to have some resources on hand. And especially, Natasha, you're up there in 18 inches of snow. And if the power goes out or they knock down the communication grid or whatever, you've got to make sure that, whether it's you or somebody else, you got to stay warm. You got to keep toasty. So this is kind of a big deal. And Leon sent me a chart for Saturday, where they are going to have this big million-person march in Washington, D.C. And should I go over today? Maybe I will, depending on how much time we have. And it's not a great chart. And there's a lot of conflict. There's a lot of conflict in this chart, with the moon being balsamic in those final degrees of Scorpio. It's kind of a bitter moon, bitter Scorpio moon. So it's going to be interesting at the very least. But I would say make sure that you've topped off on whatever you need, especially if you're in a climate where you're going to have to deal with the elements. So whatever it takes, make sure that you can stay warm and hang in there, and be able to do whatever you need to do, because we're at this place now. It's for some people, it's actually causing a lot of stress and a lot of pressure, and especially if you're being forced to wear a mask and being forced to conform with these outrageous COVID laws and COVID restrictions, and they're ramping those up too. So, the general level of sanity for people in this country and abroad is, tilting dangerously into the red, and this is a problem. It's an issue. It's a real issue. So you throw that together with what's happened with the so-called election, and you have a recipe for a lot of cracked up lives and kind of deep fractalization. And it's usually this time of year, at least in this country, maybe particularly a little bit later in December for other countries, it's a time where families get together and families sort of renew their traditions and get stupid gifts or drink too much or whatever those things are. But by and large, it's a time where there's old Uncle Frank who falls asleep after dinner and snores and farts along with the dog by the fireplace. It's that kind of stuff. And but those things are the kind of the everyday or common glue that sort of keeps people's lives together in ways that are probably more meaningful than I think a lot of people realize. And those things are gone pretty much. The family has become a battlefield and has become weaponized. Now, the good news is that there has been some interesting forms of reconciliation, because I know a lot of people who have come to me and said, my family used to think I was crazy. My family used to think I was out there. Now, after this election, there are people those people have their family members come to them and are saying, what else do you know? Right? It's interesting because that's happening. So there's a good side to this, that people are waking up. We're being shaken out of our doldrums. And again, my greatest would be a fear, but I hope that as we awaken, that we're just not moved into another pen, that we're not just moved into another free range space, that we really do awaken. And this is why I think it's important. Now, I support what's going on with the vote, and I support what's going on with calling these people out on this election bullshit. I totally support that. And I'll be honest with you, I'm going to take Tucker Carlson's position as well. If the shoe was on the other side, I'd probably support that. Let's say if it was a Democratic candidate and they were rigging the vote and it was absolutely irrefutable, I'd support that 100%, because it's part of a process, even though it's a severely damaged and in many ways synthetic process. I would still support that notion, no matter who. Okay, but do the math on this. So, and what's interesting is that if Trump had won, well, let's say he did win. But if Trump had won in a similar fashion that Biden did, that all of a sudden overnight there were all these votes, what do you think the left would be doing? They'd be losing their fucking minds. They would be losing their minds. They would be all over this. They would be completely nuts. And we wouldn't hear the end of it. But because it's their candidate, it's like, grow up here. Grow up here. Who said that? Oprah Winfrey? No, what's her name? Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi Goldberg said that, right? Do you know what Whoopi Goldberg's real name is? Karen. Whoopi Goldberg's name is Karen. Wrap your head around that. All right, let's go into some of these links. I got a lot of links. A lot of interesting stuff I want to show you. So one of the things that I've been talking about is Biden. Like, who is Joe Biden? I am to this moment right here at 9:17 a.m. Central Standard Time. I can't tell you, but I can tell you who he isn't, and that's the guy that we've seen in the 90s, 2000s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. He's not that guy. And I'm going to show you some interesting images, which theoretically might prove my point. So there are a couple of software companies out there. Let me show you one of them. This is a company called Kairos. And it's not the only one. There are other companies like this. And what Kairos specializes in is facial recognition. There's another one called Ecos. So the idea here is that you would upload 2 photos. The software would look at the photos. It would say match or not match. Person, not the same person. So let me show you a couple of examples of the of this from a couple of different versions of the of these programs. Give me 1 second here. Okay. Okay, so here, let me just line these bad boys up. We got a lot of them. So I was watching this little animated documentary on Rick James this morning. And they had a bit on there with when Eddie Murphy cut that record, Party All the Time. Now I can't get that song out of my head. Shit. Okay, here we go. So why don't we start with, let's do this. Okay, so here's this one company. It's called EcoNess, and they're one of these software recognition companies, facial recognition companies. Okay, so here we go. So we have this guy, and we have this guy. It says same person. That's interesting. That's a rune, by the way. Even though it looks like a face, right? That's a rune. That's Sowelu, which is a rune for the sun in the runic script. Okay, so here we go. Same guy. All right. Fair enough. Looks like the same guy. Okay. Let's do another one. So same company, same software. Same person. Okay. Notice the ears. All right. Here we go. Different person. This is the same company, Econus, Reconus, however you want to pronounce it. This is whoever the so-called president-elect is. It verifies this as a different person. So what about what can we use as a contrast point to see, really how effective the software is? Before I do that, let's go back to an older version of Joe Biden. Here. Different person. You see that? The other two said same. These two say different. Okay. All right. Maybe the software is perhaps a little buggy. All right. So maybe we could use another person to sort of validate this, or perhaps invalidate it. Same person. Interesting. Okay. Well, maybe we should try it with a different facial recognition program. And this one is Kairos. Here we go. No match. These are different people. These are different people. So what is really going on here? Who is Joe Biden? Who is this version of Joe Biden? And I've been looking at this thing for a while now. I mean, not just those pictures, but when he was running for president, he was in the primary. And I'm like, what the fuck happened to this guy? And why is he even out here? And nobody gave him a snowball's chance in hell. I mean, his campaign was doing marginally better than Kamala Harris's, who was probably just a few notches above Marianne Williamson by the time Tulsi Gabbard got through with her. And I began to really question if that was really Joe Biden, because how could an individual not be able to function like that? Well, I think the answer is that you're not dealing with that individual. Now, I know he had a stroke, and Sarah Dawson, who's connected to this world of brain surgery, knows people that worked on, stroked out Joe. But I'm not sure if this is a result of that. When you look at those images, they're not a match. They're not a match. So then what is he? And even like the pictures of Hunter at the so-called acceptance speech, or whatever that was, whatever that bizarre event was, which was really being shot in the studio with a green screen. And you had all these Jeeps that were brand new. Nobody was in them, in a kind of a parking lot somewhere. I mean, people make fun of this Four Seasons press conference, which I think has a lot of code embedded in it, which we've actually looked at. But they don't make fun of the fact that there are these so-called, you know, speeches or events for Biden where really it's a completely artificial and simulated event. And it really is part of what's going on with reality. And I've talked about this with pro football, how they're playing in empty stadiums and yet they're pumping their crowd noise, or they're playing in baseball stadiums and they have cardboard people, sitting in their season ticket holder seats. So there's this weird kind of, how do I say this, transference of so-called reality that's taking place. And when a couple of weeks, I think it was last week, when I said they didn't just hijack an election, they hijacked reality. And that's what's going on here. And I think it's going to get very difficult for people to have kind of their reference points, because while that's happening, you've got this stuff going on in England, which is not good. Not good. Let me show you guys this. So here we have Bill Gates flying over to England to hang out with Boris Johnson to plot COVID-19 vaccine deployment as UK military preps for biggest effort since World War II. There you go. Here's your warm and loving, kind, compassionate nurse. You know what that is? That's Chiron and Aries right there. Chiron and Aries. The military healer. Look at this. You see that? One-way system. You think that's intentional? Of course it is. It's like there's only one way in, and then there's one way out. That's it. That's it. Remember how they try to entrain you in the supermarket lines or in the aisles with the arrows? You shop this direction, right? I've followed this woman before, this Helen Biniski. She's actually pretty good. Unlike PM Boris Johnson, UK PM Boris Johnson has met with billionaire vaccine evangelist Bill Gates and 10 big pharma CEOs to discuss rolling out COVID-19 jab and unveil the country's new Gates-funded plan to prevent future pandemics. The pharmaceutical love fest conducted virtually on Tuesday saw all 10 execs recommit to ensuring fair global access to any successful COVID-19 vaccines in the wake of positive yet vague news about Pfizer's jab, which is yet to be approved in the UK, even as the National Health Service NHS prepares to start vaccinating people as early as December. My God. During the roundtable, Johnson reaffirmed his commitment to using UK's G7 presidency next year to impose a sweeping global health plan. Sweeping global health plan. He's not talking about a health plan for the UK or the EU. A sweeping global health plan. Okay. Developed by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in partnership with the Wellcome Trust in the name of preventing future pandemics. Gates, who lacks a college degree or medical training, don't let that get in the way, praised Johnson for allowing his foundation to craft UK and potentially global health policy, as the PM restated the Gates Foundation's 5-point plan for the nation's new global approach to health security. Okay, here it is. The ambitious strategy initially unveiled by Gates at the UN General Assembly in September will have repercussions far outside the UK's borders. If implemented, it involves creating a global network of zoonotic disease research hubs, supposedly to detect potentially dangerous viruses in animal populations before they have a chance to infect humans in order to get a head start on developing vaccines against them. Oh, Jesus. Lord help us. It also calls for a rapid build-out in manufacturing capacity for vaccines and treatments. And Johnson praised the Herculean joint effort by pharmaceutical companies and researchers to develop treatments and vaccines against novel coronavirus. declaring it would take a truly global endeavor to stop future pandemics. Johnson chided world leaders for not listening to Gates when he sounded the alarm. Oh, you mean like how Nigel Ferguson or Niall Ferguson, whatever his name is, sounded the alarm about the death rates? Oh, yeah, we listened to that guy. So there are going to be corona-free Britons, right? So you're going to get a wristband. You're going to get a wristband, which is probably got an RFID tracker. It's not just some colorful little wristband. This is the stuff that they've worked out at concerts. You know, you get a wristband. You buy a wristband and you wear your wristband at the concert. And you pay for all your shit at the concert on your wristband. You get your wristband loaded. That's how they work this stuff out. Oh, hey, let's go to a concert. Oh, we got to get a wristband. Oh, okay. How much should we put on it? I don't know. Let's just throw about a couple $100 on there. What do you think? Oh, sounds great. Yeah, let's go. Let's do it. Okay. You know, when that started to happen, they rolled that out at whatchamacallit, the concert here in Austin that they have in October, which they will not have this year. Not South by Southwest. But when they started to roll that, even South by Southwest had wristbands. When they started to roll that out, I'm like, I'm done. I'm tapping out. I don't need to get a wristband to go to this. Okay, the UK is contracted for 40 million doses of the Pfizer vaccine. Jesus. Elderly care home inhabitants and care home employees are set to get the vaccine first. Let's take care of the elderly. They're the ones that are most at risk. Jesus. I mean, come on, people. You saw what happened to the so-called elderly. All you have to do is look what happened in Italy, upstate New York. Let's take care of them. Age increments of 5 years follow over 75, over 70, over 65, and so on, down to 50, with high-risk populations for any given age group prioritized. It's supposed to be impossible to cut in line, though given the dire straits of the UK economy, which entered a second punishing lockdown last week, a little palm greasing might go a long way. Like you want to cut in line to get the fucking vaccine. Right. No jab, no movement. Oh. UK MP pushes mandatory COVID-19 vaccination for travel. Suggests Army should oversee rollout. This is Chiron and Aries right here. Round up the anti-vaxxers and list religious leaders. Bill Gates warns the U.S. needs to brainstorm ways to reduce vaccine hesitancy. Really? Okay. Maybe we should brainstorm ways to reduce your carbon footprint, Bill. Anyway, this is the madness that is ensuing here as they rush to create a new version of reality. This is what's going on. This is the reset. Isn't just about getting rid of or shit canning capitalism, so that everybody is experiencing a service versus owning a product. It's not about that. It's about recreating this version of our experience here called reality. That's what's going on. And Joe Biden, I think, is a cipher for that. And the whole campaign is a cipher for that because it's all completely, in my estimation, unreal. First of all, it's unreal that somebody theoretically who, falls asleep at 1 p.m. or, drools in their oatmeal or whatever would actually be considered a viable candidate. That part to me is completely unreal. But then the fact that he may not even be Joe Biden, which those images would suggest, if that software recognition is actually up to snuff, that those are two different people. We know Trump is Trump, although he may have been augmented a little bit by Elon Musk. That's what I think. I think Trump is hooked into Neuralink now. He had this weird thing on his head, this weird thing, and I think Elon Musk did a little Neuralink up with the Trumpster. So what's also mildly interesting, but completely unsurprising, is what has happened with Pfizer, the company who supposedly has a 95% success rate with the vaccine. Right. So what's going on with them? Well, I'll show you. Doesn't he look like a lovely human? Wouldn't you like to spend about 5 hours next to him on an airplane? Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla cashed out 60% of his stock on the same day. The company unveiled the results of its COVID-19 vaccine trial. So this guy got rid of 60% of his Pfizer stock. So they rigged this fucking thing, and then they get a 95% success rate. Their stock just skyrockets, and what does he do? There's a big fat sell-off. Look at that. 62% of his stock in the company on the same day the drug maker announced the results of its COVID-19 vaccine trial. Bourla sold $5.6 million in stock on Monday as part of a predetermined trading plan adopted August 19th. His stock sale was carried out at $41.94 a share. The 52-week high for Pfizer is $41.99, which means the CEO cashed out his shares at close to the highest price this year. Pfizer and its German partner, BioNTech, on Monday became the first to post positive results from late-stage COVID-19 vaccine trials. They've had this stuff for a long time. Come on. So 15%, he gets a 15% bump. He had 132,508 shares. So this guy cashed out to the tune of $5.6 million. Good timing there, Albert. And then what happens? Well, the stock goes down. Pfizer is already working on a workaround powder form vaccine to address the current one's biggest limitation, having to be stored at extremely low temperatures. Yeah, can you wrap your head around that? The vaccine has got to be stored at 80 below. 80 below. And that's Fahrenheit, right? That's not Celsius. That's Fahrenheit. 80 below. That's fucking cold. And if it gets to what? 40 below, which we talked about yesterday, which is still really cold, but it's like half of what it's supposed to be. Just think about the refrigeration. I mean, we're not talking like, your freezer in your kitchen. This is some really deep cold storage. And they've got to house 300 million shots of this stuff. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So we're gonna work around that problem. We're gonna turn it into a powder. So you're just gonna be able to pop the vaccine. Oh, okay. Maybe you could chop it up and snort it. Really live your glory days at Studio 54. So here we go. The rush is on, and in the midst of this chaos, in the midst of this strange kind of hall of mirrors and illusion, with this person or this president-elect who isn't even there, they're trying to insert this new reality. Now, it's also interesting that we have theoretically two presidents, which of course is very Gemini and fitting for our time. And I think possibly what they're doing is they're getting us to think about the idea of multiple presidents, which, by the way, has been discussed before. And I think it was Gordon Michael Scallion's map of the U.S. And he talks about in the future that there will be more than one president. And I believe that's also the model for Pan Am, which is, of course, the name of the former United States in the Hunger Games trilogy. So getting used to this idea of more than one president is kind of it's beginning to infiltrate our consciousness. And I think that whether it's by chance or accident or by some form of plan, it's getting people to think about that, right? It's getting people to think that there could be like more than one person who would be in charge here, or more than two people for that matter as well. So a simple solution really would be to declare two winners. This is what I would do. Just declare two winners, and that Joe Biden could be president over the 13 states that are Democratic, and then Donald Trump could be president over how many others, whatever the division between Republican and Democrat is. Like Biden can be president for those states, and Trump can be president for the so-called Republican states. And then you have some interesting things take place. Let the games begin, right? Let's see some fireworks. I mean, that could be an interesting resolution. That they would get part of the coast, and we'd get most of the middle, or the other side, whatever they're, most of the middle. So I wanted to kind of go back to this idea of, who is Joe Biden, or what is Joe Biden? And I've played excerpts from these recordings before, and I'm going to play them again so that you can refresh your memory and maybe wrap your head around this idea of Biden being somebody or something different, and not really a clone per se. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you a little bit of audio from this guy named Dr. Peter Beater. And he had these really interesting audio logs that he put out on cassette. And I think he was on a couple of radio stations, but you could actually get his cassettes. And he brought up the concept of robotoids. And I remember when I first heard this, I think it was in the 90s when I first heard this. It kind of blew my mind. So I wanted to play that again. And he has a very interesting delivery. So I want you to listen to this and kind of wrap your head around this idea that what we're looking at with Biden might not be a replacement, and it might not be an exact clone, but it could be something entirely different. And it may not be this, but I think we need to expand our idea of who or what this character is. All right. And he's a character at this point. He's not even a real person, in my estimation. Okay, here we go. Let me find this thing. All right. There it is.
Topic number 2. 2 months ago, I revealed that a revolutionary new intelligence weapon was being introduced by Russia. I refer to their organic robotoids. These are man-made, robot-like living creatures, perhaps best described as computerized animals. They're designed to simulate human beings almost perfectly in appearance and behavior, and yet they are not human. Robotoids are so far removed from the knowledge and experience of most people that they are very difficult for many people to believe. But now more and more major surprises are filling the news. That is, they are surprises if you do not know about Russia's robotoids. For example, consider the Middle East and the alleged gasoline shortage. Nearly 4 years ago, on October 12, 1975, I wrote an article on the op-ed page of the Washington Star. It was titled, "Who's to Blame for Inflation? It's Time to Be Fair to OPEC." The comments I made then are still true today. For example, we hear constantly about the increasing price of oil. But, quote, you must remember that products from the oil-consuming countries to the oil-producing countries are costing more each day, unquote. And, quote, thus oil price rises appear to be limited, while the products of the industrialized countries are unlimited, open-ended. Is this fair? Unquote. When I wrote those words in 1975, I was out of step with the crowd. For the next 3.5 years we were told increasingly that OPEC, especially Saudi Arabia, was our economic enemy. But suddenly, in the past 2 months, everything has changed. The Hate Saudi Arabia chant in the major media has abruptly stopped, at least for the moment. Instead, stories are appearing about renewed trust between the United States and Saudi Arabia, and as if by magic the contrived gasoline lines are disappearing with promises of more gas on the way. It's all the result of the Russian Robotoid shuttles to the Middle East, my friends, which I reported in AUDIO LETTER 46. Russia stopped the war plan and robbed the big oil companies of their excuse for shortages. Now consider the SALT II Treaty. There's a relationship, my friends, between SALT II and, of all things, the Skylab debacle. There is nothing at all in the major media news about this relationship, but as my older listeners know, SALT II and Skylab are just tips of the same iceberg, and it's an iceberg that is already sinking our ship of state. Earlier, I reviewed how the real story of Skylab's fate began on September 27, 1977. That was the day America lost the secret space battle of the Harvest Moon to Russia. 3 weeks later, a Russian Cosmos interceptor blasted Skylab out of existence. The real story of the present SALT II Treaty also began on September 27, 1977. That day, Soviet Foreign Minister Andrei Gromyko delivered a speech at the United Nations. By the time Gromyko spoke, it was already clear that Russia was winning the space battle, so he spoke very harshly about American stalling on SALT II. He delivered what amounted to a veiled ultimatum. Then he left for Washington for a highly unusual nighttime meeting at the White House with the real Jimmy Carter and Secretary of State Cyrus Vance. Breathless reporters told the nation there had been a breakthrough in SALT II. But when I recorded AUDIO LETTER 26 3 days later, I revealed what had really happened. The stories about a SALT breakthrough were lies, cover stories to allay public concern. That's what my listeners heard in AUDIO LETTER 26, and for the following 1.5 years SALT II went nowhere. But early this year, drastic changes in America's rulership began taking place. For the past 6 months, the AUDIO LETTER has been focusing on these changes as they have taken place, and they have led, among other things, to a turnaround on SALT II. The changes began on January 26, 1979 with the murder of Nelson Rockefeller. That was the opening shot of a secret Bolshevik coup d'etat against America's real rulers. As I have explained in previous tapes, the atheistic Bolsheviks no longer rule Russia. They have been overthrown by a tough band of native Christians. Today, Christianity is being reborn in Russia, but here in the United States, the Bolsheviks want to create a new Bolshevik revolution. They want to seize control of America and then to strike back at their bitter enemies, the Christ ones who now run the Kremlin. For several months, the Bolshevik coup d'etat was moving fast. Important people were being purged and replaced by doubles, beginning with David and Lawrence Rockefeller and their intimates. And the weekend after Easter 1979, the Bolshevik purge claimed the lives of President Carter, Vice President Mondale, and their families. But as I reported in AUDIO LETTER 45, the Russians then began to intervene. A secret war of doubles broke out, and by late April the White House was already under Russia's control. In AUDIO LETTER 46, I was able to let my listeners in on the key to Russia's success. They are using robotoids to replace and simulate powerful people.
Okay, so I brought that in because it sounds completely nuts. But at the same time, I think that there's a there. And I don't think that this kind of robotoid program, if it did exist, and it feels to me like it's pretty fringy, but it feels to me like there's a there. One of the reasons why is because, number one, when Jimmy Carter left the White House, he did not look the same. And even his mother, Lillian, didn't recognize him. And she didn't recognize her own son. It's like, I don't recognize him. So, could we be dealing with another incident of a robotoid with Joe Biden? Possibly. I mean, I know it's really out there, but I think it's about as close as we can get to perhaps describing, or at least trying to understand, whatever this entity is, because I don't think it's him. I don't think it's a clone, because unless it's like 5 or 6 generations, copy after copy after copy after copy down the line, and it just stops functioning, possibly. But there's something robotic about Biden. There is a. Do you remember Get Smart, the TV series where they had Control and Chaos, the two warring factions? There was a character in Get Smart called Jaime, I believe, and he was a robot. He was a robot. He looked human and everything, but he was a robot. And it was a little, pre-Carter. I think Get Smart was what, 1966, 67, but they were already playing with this concept. Some of those Get Smart episodes are very clever, and there's some predictive programming in the Get Smart stuff. Anyway, what do you guys think? Biden looks different again. Transhumans in the works, we know that. Let's see, the trolls are evolving. Well, they evolve, we evolve, right? Let's see. Anyone with that mineral mine heritage worth a listen? Absolutely. Absolutely. Peter Better was not some bumpkin. This is a guy who is deeply involved in international business, and he had connections. Absolutely. Great American Defensive Speeches, John Birch Society from 50s, 60s, 70s. So Trump comes out of the John Birch world. So does Alex Jones, by the way, with Birchers. Probably, but deaf, way fringe, very fringe. Yeah, very fringe. It's pretty bad robotoid technology unless they're demoralizing. They can program that in, right? You're right, Kathleen. Pretty bad. Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense that they would want copies for insurance. Think of Data on Star Trek, Ing, and Android. There you go. There you go. What else do we have? Jaime, shake a leg. Doesn't his name Jaime, like J-A-I, Jamie or something like that? Nuts is the new normal. Yep, I'd agree with that. Let's see, what else do we have here? Looks like there's some purging. We got a purge going on in Chatlandia. You guys are awesome. What else? The deception they can pull off now is mind blowing. Absolutely, and we haven't even really gotten into the deep fake stuff yet. So I'm sure that they'll roll out the deep fake material when they're good and ready. Inviting myself back in. It lonely here. Oh, too bad. It's okay. I'm sure you'll find another group of warm-hearted souls to wrap their virtual arms around you. I'm not familiar with John Birch. It's Birch. John Birch was the founder of the birch tree. Did you know that? Yep. He created the birch tree. There wouldn't be birch trees without John Birch. So, just like Cubby Broccoli, who was the guy who created or produced all the James Bond movies. He was the inventor of broccoli. Did you know that as well? Trollandia. What was the Skylab? Skylab crashed, right? That's what happened with Skylab. It crashed. It's awesome. True Americanism is the spirit and the spirit of the Constitution. The preamble. I love it. But Skylab was shot down. No way. Could be. Possibly. I want to show you a clip that I wanted to play yesterday. And then I'm going to show you another clip, which I think is kind of inspirational and uplifting. So I'm going to show you the clip that's not so inspirational and not so uplifting. And I'm going to show you another clip that I think is, well, it's really not inspirational. Unless, of course, you're into venting and have righteous anger. I think Mir did come down. You're right. Absolutely. Okay. So I'm going to show you the video from Tucker Carlson with Dr. Mark Siegel. Hey, Tucker. Hey, Tucker. Tucker, I got the best news today. I talked with General Perna, and he told me that they're going to be able to vaccinate at least 100 people in 10 minutes, Tucker. I'm so excited about this. This is an amazing American medical breakthrough. All right, I'm going to let Mark Siegel tell it. Here you go. The amazing Dr. Mark Siegel. Not. We're going to go right here. Right here. Is this it? Okay. Here we go.
Brian, you just took the words out of my mouth. We've never had it before where the DOD, the Department of Defense, which knows the word deployment, don't they? Partners with the CDC and McKesson, a company that has already sent vaccines around the country multiple times. The plan is in place and has never been done this way before. They're already geared up to already send out 50 to 100 million doses. And, you know, Governor Cuomo's talking about underserved areas, but the plan includes temporary clinics being built in underserved areas on Indian reservations in poor neighborhoods in order to get the vaccine to people who need it the most. Healthcare workers will get it. The elderly will get it. The poor minorities will get it. All he's doing is shaking confidence in a vaccine that we have very exciting news about. And our big problem is going to be vaccine compliance. How disturbing is that for him to be shaking the confidence in this vaccine at exactly the wrong time?
And we think they could be ready. They want to get the shot going.
Okay, this is not the one that I wanted. Hold on. I wanted the Tucker. This one apparently flipped. Give me 1 second. Although you kind of get what he's talking about. All right, hold on. Let me find this thing. Mark Siegel. Let's do this. Hold on. That's 6 months ago, 7 months ago. How Dr. Mark Siegel helped Tucker through appendicitis. How about that? Okay, let's do this. 6 months, 1 month, 3 years, 7 months. Let's see. Teague Biden releases plan for America. 1 month. Oh, man. All right. I thought I had this thing queued up. Apparently, that's a negatory. Let me just go back here. This is the one I wanted to play yesterday. Yeah, it's not happening. Okay, so instead, what I want to do, I think you guys got the gist of it yesterday. What I want to do is I wanted to play you this video, and I've been wanting to play this now for at least a week. And it's a woman, it's a mother whose kid passed out at school from wearing a mask. I don't know if you've seen the video, but I'm going to show this to you because this is what's going to disturb and potentially awaken a number of people to the absolute and utter system of control that we're being slowly marched into like cattle. Here we go.
Hi. This is to anybody who is watching, who may be an attorney, who I don't know, who's ready to fucking take down the government. That's where I'm at. My son just passed out in school for wearing a fucking mask. That's where I'm at. In PE, he passed the fuck out because he couldn't breathe. I'm done. I'm done. I'm fucking done. I don't give a shit anymore. If anybody wants to claim that these masks are fucking good, people die every day from diseases. Every day, heart attack, everything else. A child who passes out during PE because he can't breathe, because he's in a fucking mask, gets this mama bear fucking pissed. I need an attorney because I'm ready to fucking sue. So if you are a lawyer and you have more knowledge than me, this is no longer okay. An innocent child just passed out because they wore a fucking mask in PE. This, America, is not okay. This is children. This is not okay. I am done. I hope every school board member is listening to this. This is children's life we are talking about and breathing. People get sick every day. When you can't breathe, it's a game changer. Breath is life. The world is about to change. Your reality. I had to deal with my daughter last night with anxiety and depression because of all the homework that educators think it is okay to put on children during this whole fucking pandemic. Mental awareness and health and children's health, people's health is at risk. People are actively committing suicide right now because of the stress our government has done, and you guys are done. I will no longer put my children's life in your hands over some fucking grades. It's done. America, wake the fuck up. Something's got to change.
Well, I guarantee you she's no robotoid. So I'm going to leave you with that. It's not really all that uplifting. It's not all that positive. But what it is it's clear and it's direct. And the message is really nonpartisan here. It has nothing to do with a robotoid or non-robotoid or an augmented human. The message is very clear. And that message is, wake the fuck up, because our kids, and it's going to be our pets too, by the way. They're going to come for the pets at some point. I'm telling you that right now. What did they killed? How many minks did they kill in Europe because they thought that they might have COVID? Now they'll come for the pets at some point as well. So it's our children, it's our pets, it's the elderly. Anything that gives us comfort and support and love and legacy, they're coming for it. They're going to come for it because they need to remake the world. They need to remake the rules of society and how we interact, how we relate, how we nurture, how we grow. And that's what's happening. This is where we are. And we have this major distraction that's going on. And look, I hope it gets sorted out. I hope that they get to the basement, to the dungeon of what happened during the voting process. And, look, if Trump decides that, he's going to run his vaccine program, warp speed, whatever, we're going to have to deal with this thing one way or the other. Whether it's Trump or whether it's Biden, we're going to have to deal with one way or the other. But that woman's had enough. And I'd love to know where that was. Maybe I'll follow up on that. But I just wanted to play that for you. That's clear, that's direct, that's focused. She's had enough. And I hope you've had enough too, at least for today. I will be back tomorrow with the Friday Firecast. And I know we have at least one guest. I think we have at least one guest. And maybe two. But you know where to find me, the other channel, 12 noon Central Standard Time. So until then, use your head to discern what's real, your heart to discern what's real, your heart to say what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Thank you very much. If you'd like to support the show, there's a link in the page right there. And it is just snowing fall leaves. It's just snowing fall leaves out here. Take good care of yourself. Keep your feet on the ground, okay? Keep your feet on the ground and keep your head on the swivel. Like, don't lose your shit. Keep it together. All right? All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow at noon. Bye for now.